All right, we got Chris Akin from the CMS on the line. We're going to talk a little bit about music, merchandising that's not music. So what's going on, Chris?
What is going on, man? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, always. It's always a pleasure to have you on. But we were talking earlier, you were drinking some Ellefson Coffee Co. coffee this morning, and I was kind of dealing from a hangover from some Megadeth Tous Monde beer. And so let's talk.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
like a before and after, all done by Megadeth, right?
Right. You know, what do you think about all these bands releasing, coffee and beers and all kinds of different stuff? What do you see?
You know what, man? It's kind of that double-edged sword with the bands. At first, when they first release whatever they're doing, I'm sure there's a pop to it, because people, if you're an Iron Maiden fan, you want Trooper beer.
Right.
If you're a really hardcore Iron Maiden fan, or doesn't Anthrax have a coffee or a beer or something too?
Yeah, like Charlie Benante put out some coffee and yeah.
Yeah. If you're a really hardcore, you'll buy that stuff initially. The problem that they all run into, though, is that they don't have a way to keep it going.
Right.
They yeah, it's great. You go out online and you order the stuff and then you have it. But like, I'll give you an example right now. I am totally loving the Ellefson coffee. And, I have no reason to plug it other than I actually bought it. I wasn't sent it for free or anything. I went onto his website and I bought it, because I did an interview with Ellefson and he was cool and he convinced me to buy coffee. Right. He played salesman, convinced me to buy the Ellefson coffee. So I did, and I bought two flavors. I bought the Kenya Thrash coffee and I bought the Roast in Peace.
Nice. Which
I could do without the tacky names, but whatever. I get it. And now, but I haven't done the Roast in Peace yet, but I've been drinking for about 2 weeks the Kenya Thrash coffee, and I'll be the first one to admit it is a very good coffee. If you like coffee, this is some really good coffee. Now, but the problem is, what am I going to do? Am I going to order my coffee now online forever versus running to the store when I'm low and just grabbing a Folgers or whatever?
Well, with you, I would see you ordering it online because you love ordering online. So that's actually probably right up your alley.
I do, but now I got to remember the Ellefson Coffee Company, instead of Amazon, where I order everything online, and that's the thing. These guys, they have some good ideas, and some of them have good products, and some of them have terrible products, that they just slap their name on, and that's kind of the hit or miss. Is I think a lot of these guys. I think Ellefson is really a coffee aficionado and probably would not put out just some piece of shit that has his name on it. Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure. I don't think Ellefson's just putting out anything. I think Ellefson is putting out something that he actually likes.
Well, when I had him on the podcast last year when he announced the coffee, when he originally put out I think he only had the Roast in Peace, but he broke down that he went and sampled all these beans and made sure they were from a certain part of the world and all that stuff. So he's a very, very big into the coffee thing. And, with this Tous Monde beer that I had last night, which for some reason, I don't know why Megadeth feels like they need to just keep pushing that Tous Monde thing, because as for a song, it was never one of my favorites. But every time they do something, man, I feel like it's a Tous Monde this and a Tous Monde that. But other than that, it was a good beer. It was, it wasn't. Am I going to buy it again? Probably not. It was 13. Right. It was $13 for a 4-pack. That of beer that kind of tasted, Baco from Cobras and Fire said it kind of tasted like a Blue Moon or something, and it kind of had that taste to it. But what I did was I bought the 4-pack, but also got some Miller Lite. It's like I'm not a beer snob, so right. I'm gonna buy it for the, hey, Megadeth beer. That's gonna be a lot of fun. But now I'm not. Am I gonna go back and buy a second 4-pack? No. So
yeah. The only time you might buy it again would be like when Megadeth releases the next album. If you have like a bunch of buddies over to have like a Megadeth listening party or something at your house, right. And you buy the beer,
yeah,
and you would buy the beer and some coffee for the morning, and there you go, and you're ready. But yeah, and that I think is the problem, is that when you do it based on your band, it's not a product that you're putting out there with a sustainable audience.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think people are. Who was it that did the hot sauce? Well, everybody. Didn't everybody like 5 years ago was doing hot sauce?
Yeah, everybody's got a hot sauce, and they just slap their name on it. I can't think of it. Sammy Hagar, maybe? I think he was like the big one.
But that right there, the fact that you and I, as music dorks, can't think of it, that tells you that it has no staying power with fans.
Yeah.
You know, just none.
I mean, if I would have dove into this beer last night, it was my favorite beer of all time, then yes, I'm going to continue to buy it. But, for $13 for a 4-pack of beer that, I could get, I'm not, like I said, I'm not an IPA snob. I'm not going to,
Right.
I must have a dark hops whiskey barrel aged blah blah blah.
Right.
I can drink Bud Light and be happy. So I bought it. I was trying to think about it like this, and it's like, $13 for the 4-pack. $13 is roughly the price of a CD. How wonder what the cost, what the profit margin is on this $13 that he's getting. Because I think a lot more people are, sadly, in this day and age, probably going to buy a 4-pack of $13 beer than go out and buy Dystopia. I wonder.
Right,
I wonder what the sales of this beer is as compared to Dystopia. Because I got a buddy of mine. A buddy of mine messaged me last night when I posted about getting the beer and tasting it and things like that. He does drink this. This is his go-to beer right now. So you got to think. He bought Dystopia, yes, but he's also bought 10 4-packs. So he's put $130 into his beer fund. So I just kind of wonder. If CDs aren't selling, maybe they're looking at coffees and beers.
Yeah, well, tie it in. They all got to make money somehow, and they all seem to still think that they should be making $1 million a tour. So now they're branching out into products and whatnot. But the problem, the other side of that though, is what happens when they release a shit product. And I've told this story on the CMS. I'll tell it here. We myself and some friends, we went up to Wisconsin 3 years ago, I guess, or 4 now. God. In 2013 to see Van Halen. It was Van Halen and Akin was opening, and Don hooked us up with a bunch of passes and whatnot, so we could hang out backstage all day. And it was a fun time. But one of the bands that was there was Jackal, and Jesse James was there with his liquor, with his whiskey.
Yeah, he had whiskey. Yeah,
and this whiskey. I would use it to kill rats if I had rats. It was the most rot gut shit you have ever drank in your mouth. I mean, he was walking around making everybody take a drink of it. Like we were all sitting in a tent. We were all sitting in a tent having lunch. It was the Dockin guys and the Rat guys and like one or two of the Jackal guys. They brought out lunch. And we were all just sitting there having lunch, and here comes Jesse. Y'all got to try this. You got to try some of the whatever it's called, the full throttle saloon whiskey or whatever. and we were all taking mouthfuls. Half the people were spitting it out, and the other half were just like kind of. I know for me, Jesse was like in my face. He's like, try it. Doesn't even give me a glass. Just gives me the bottle.
Oof.
And I'm dumping it from the bottle. I took a big old mouthful of it, and it was poison. It literally was poison bad. But I gulped it down, and I, shook my head, and I looked at him and said, "Yeah, Jesse, that was good." I was like, "Yeah, that was good, I guess." And because I did that, then he went away, I was like, I didn't even want to say it was bad because I was afraid he'd be like, "Oh, we'll take another try."
Right.
I was so afraid he was going to go with that he was going to make me do it. But my point to this story is now, not that I'm a huge Jackal fan anyway, but now I have a bad memory from Jackal, from this bad alcohol, this bad whiskey. And it's like, okay, well, maybe now, I hate to be this way, but subconsciously I'm a little less likely to give whatever music he's doing a shot now. Because it's like, the last thing I remember about Jackal is this fucking rot gut whiskey. And I don't think that some of these guys, Yeah, I don't think it matters. Obviously, if the Megadeth beer was shit, Megadeth's a big enough band that it wouldn't matter.
Right.
And but there's a lot of little bands like Jackal that are doing this kind of stuff. Like I think Warrant had some wine. The I Saw Red wine. It's God. All right, the name is beyond cheeseball. Secondly, you had a singer that died from drinking too much, so maybe that's a little poor taste.
Right.
But and third, from what I've heard, I have not tried it myself, so I'm not trying to say this like I've tried it, it was terrible, but I've heard that the wine is not very good either. So it's like if you're a Warrant fan and you drank this wine,
right,
and you didn't like it, now what? Now you got a dead singer and a bad wine. It's like,
well, how many people buy the actual product to drink it, and how many people buy it to just put on a shelf? That's the other thing. If the Motley Brew that comes out, or even like little bands like Darkest Hour, and I saw some other bands, right, people posting other beers online last night that I didn't even know. I've never heard a song by the band, barely heard their name, but they've already got a beer. And I think that, if I'm not mistaken, I think Zayo is putting out a beer, which I thought they were a Christian metalcore band, but so it's. I guess we're just living.
I said Mustaine and Ellefson are Christians now, so if they can do it, I guess anybody can.
Yeah, they can. They can sell you their beer and baptize your baby at the same time.
That's right.
But yeah, so I mean, I guess how many Trooper beers are sitting on shelves unopened right now, or
so again, it's not about the product. Right. It's not about producing a good product necessarily. It's about a collectible item. And Megadeth's a big enough band that I think a lot of collectors would buy it. There's probably a lot of collectors out there that have, the same guy that has the Toot Lemon beer on his shelf is the same guy that has a Rust in Peace Highway sign up on his wall too.
Right.
Or those are the kind of people that would do that. The problem is when these smaller bands do it, they don't have that kind of a following. Is there really anybody out there that's going to buy Warrant wine to save it so that people come over and go, look at what I got, this Warrant wine. Yeah. Most people be like, who the fuck is Warrant?
Their mantle has, a picture of their kid, a trophy from softball, and the Warrant wine bottle. Yeah. Like, wow.
Yeah, it's like, I know. And I can't even imagine. I love the band Darkest Hour that you mentioned.
Yeah.
I can't imagine in a million Sundays that I would ever be like, man, my life won't be complete until I have the Darkest Hour barbecue sauce or whatever it is that they're selling. I mean, hell, I like the band and I don't even have a Darkest Hour t-shirt. So why the fuck would I buy barbecue sauce? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does it?
Well, that leads us into to my new Talk Toomey hot sauce that I'm about to put out. So.
Oh, nice! It's got a rich blend, right?
It's a rich blend. It's not bitter. It's not sour. It's when it hits your tongue, you got to wait for a second. It was way cooler in the 90s.
You know what? We can get a bag of chicken and we can do that with the new CMS dry rub that I'm putting out. It'd be perfect for some wings.
Nice.
God,
or you could
I cannot even imagine, dude.
the Neely Ranch. CMS dry rub with your Neely Ranch that you're just dipping into.
Right. Cool. Approved by Don Dokken.
Yeah, signed off. He could be your spokesperson. Yeah. Here, I am Don Dokken for the CMS dry rub and Neely Ranch. I can't say.
When
Neely.
I'm not at IHOP having breakfast with Neely, I cook my chicken with the CMS dry rub.
That's amazing.
Horrible.
Well, the guest this week on the show is John Five. Do you have any background with John Five at all?
I've met him. I've met him a few times. Once with Manson and once with Rob Zombie. Mm-hmm. Seems like a nice enough guy. I would swear I've interviewed him, but for the life of me, I can't remember it, which really doesn't say much for that interview. But you know what, dude? And it's one of those things, and I'm going to give you credit because because of me and you talking off show, I went back and listened to his new record, which is actually pretty fun.
Yeah.
It's a fun listen. Most times with with the virtuoso guys, it's just not my thing. I need a voice. You know, it doesn't even have to be a good voice, but I do need a voice telling me some sort of 3-minute story.
Right.
He, you know, it's funny because when you and I were talking, I brought up Satriani and Eric Johnson and whatnot, and you were like, yeah, but this guy's like more album-ish, you know, and for whatever reason that clicked. So I went back and I listened to the what's the new one, Season of the Witch or something like that.
Season of the Witch, yes.
Yeah, I went back and listened to it and was like, wow, this is actually a pretty good listen. But of course, midway through, my typical thing comes into play where I was like, man, if there was somebody singing over these would be great.
Yeah, there's a couple spots on the album. I would love like a Mike Patton to come in and just do some cool stuff over it. Like I would kill to hear that.
Yeah, or dude, he's been in bands with Marilyn Manson and Rob Zombie. He couldn't ask those. They couldn't give him one song,
right? Really?
Rob Zombie. I mean, Rob Zombie's putting out dog shit. Why couldn't he lay in a dog shit vocal over one of these better songs?
Absolutely.
Did you like that record or no? Oh, the Zombie record,
man,
the newest one.
I don't even really get into the Rob Zombie stuff anymore. Like I even like the first album, I was such a huge White Zombie fan that when he went solo, I was just like, the Dragula song just didn't really click, and man, I haven't really gotten into it. Putting this episode together, we threw a Rob Zombie song on the end of it. Kind of listening to it then, I was like, yeah, it's kind of good, but then I also fall into this, and I don't know if you do this too, but I fall into this. If I interview the person and I get along with them, I actually give their I almost get into their music a little bit more, and I always try to figure out if I'm really into it or if they just won me over kind of thing.
Yeah, I definitely do that. Because for people that don't know, in order to get to where you get good interviews, you do a lot of shitty interviews. And by shitty, I don't necessarily mean that the bands are bad, but a lot of times it's just people you don't know.
Yeah.
You get, oh, you want to interview Judas Priest? Okay, well, here's this band from Sweden that, their debut has come out. They're a 5-piece goth instrumental orchestral band. But if you guys do a good job with that, then we'll give you KK Downing or whatever. Right. You do a lot of that horse trading. And so you go into these interviews blind. I mean, absolutely blind with bands. I just did one not too long ago with a band called Black Top Mojo. Okay. Didn't know dick about this band. I really didn't. And listened to it. And really the first time I listened to it, I was like, all right, it's pretty C-rated Black Stone Cherry. Right. That was my impression by having it in the background, while I was trying to figure out what I was going to ask this guy about. Interviewed the guy. The guy was awesome. And then after I talked to the guy, then I went back and listened to it. I was like, okay, this isn't as bad. But just like you were saying, I sort of like the guys, so I gave the music a second chance.
Yeah, that happens. Actually, I kind of had one of those interviews the other day, and actually, I think you and I talk a lot off air, but we, he actually ended up being one of the cooler interviews I've had in a long time. That'll be out on a future episode. But unknown band, I didn't know anything about them. I Googled and Facebook searched as much as I could about them, but at the end of the day, I think we ended up talking about cassettes or something, so it's a good long conversation about, just random nonsense, but yeah, it's the good stuff, man. But, Chris, appreciate you taking the time today, man. And, just, for the 4 people out there that listen to my show that don't listen to yours, how do they catch you?
They can go to meatspin.com. That's meatspin.com.
Did you see the Pornhub April Fool's Day joke?
I did. Of course. Come on, dude. I'm a porn freak. Of course I saw the Pornhub does it. Believe me, I see it. I definitely saw their joke. That was pretty funny. A lot of people. It was more fun. What I find funny about the joke is not the joke itself, but the number of people that were scared about the joke.
Right.
That were scared. And for people that don't know, the joke was that they made it look like it was automatically spamming all of your social media that you were on Pornhub, like with whatever sick video you were watching, whatever it was. 2 chicks reverse cowboy large cock or whatever you searched, and whatever it was, they made it look like that was being spammed out to all your social media. What I found the most funny is how people were scared about this. It's like, who's not admitting to watching porn these days?
Right.
Is that still like a taboo? It's not 1973 anymore where you have like a reel-to-reel hidden away behind your couch. It's people watch porn. So what?
Oh, man.
Problem.
The one thing I've always thought was great about those sites is there is the share button that you could actually, but I've never once seen anybody share porn on Facebook that I remember.
Well, I think you'd get your account suspended, wouldn't you?
Probably.
Because you're sharing like nudity.
Right.
So I would think, I can't imagine if you're going to see it, you got to be more of a Twitter guy if you're looking for porn online, through social media, because Lord knows there's all kinds of porn in Twitter. Jesus.
Yes, there is.
Not that I know. I've heard.
You've heard.
Because I don't want to admit that I've ever watched porn. God forbid somebody knows that I'm a sick fuck in real life.
Right. All right, Chris. Well, let's take a listen to my conversation